So, I am the Casual Kiwi, and this is my take on the situation with Coppa and the FTC. So now, my previous video was on my Tindangle OTK profile, and usually following one of those I would have a follow-up video showing off some replays. But this topic I felt too important to sleep on. And honestly, it's been keeping me awake these past few nights, because this will likely affect not only myself, but all Yugitubers. Whether you make the most innocent replays and pack openings, or are doing profiles, market watches, meta commentary, or the darkest of dark Yugitubing. Because all of us are connected to something that in the eyes of the public at large is perceived as a children's card game. Now, before I go on, I want to emphasize that I cannot give any legal advice, and the following is only my opinion. I have studied law, and that does inform my opinion, but I have not completed a degree in it yet, and am a fairly middling student at that. I'm the casual Kiwi, not the professional Kiwi after all. In addition, while many of you may be based in the United States, I'm over the other side of the globe right now in Aotearoa, New Zealand, so even if I was qualified, my understanding of American laws like the Children Online Privacy Protection Act, aka Coppa, is limited at best. As a content creator, however, creating Yugioh videos on YouTube, I do have my own thoughts on the situation and what the fallout may look like for our community if these policies fully go into effect from January 1st, 2020 onwards. Despite what I'm about to say though, please do not panic, as there are still things we can do to protect ourselves. So what actually is the deal with Coppa and YouTube's new policies that is causing so much concern online? Well, to simplify, YouTube's an American-based company which has been completely in the wrong by illegally collecting data on minors. And this has been going on for years. They were recently forced to pay an $170 million settlement, one of the largest in history, to the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, for these infringements. In order to be Coppa compliant going forward, all YouTube creators, big or small, and that's important, now need to mark whether their content is made for kids or not made for kids. Now, on face value, that might seem like not a huge deal, but this is where we content creators get stuck in what would be like a hilariously stupid catch-22 situation that would kind of be funny, if not for the serious ramifications possible. So if we mark our content as made for kids, then targeted advertising will not be shown on those videos, which reduces ad revenue significantly. Comments will also be disabled, and subscribers will not be notified when new videos come out. And your videos, as a consequence, will be less likely to be recommended by the YouTube algorithm. You lose most of the features that help your channel grow in the process. Each video you flag as for kids will be essentially sent to the shadow realm. On the other hand, if you mark your content as not for kids, and it is determined that nonetheless, regardless of what you may think, your content is either designed for kids or crucially even appeals to kids, then this is illegal. And you open yourself up to strict liability to be fined by the FTC for over $40,000 per offence, but not per channel, per video. We'll come back to this point later on though, because there are some niggles with that. But it also means that your video will automatically be moved into the category for kids until you manage to appeal the decision, if you manage to appeal that decision successfully. Which means that all during that time, when you could be crucially getting views or making money off ads, that's not happening. And people can't even comment on your videos to boost them up that way. And what makes this particularly scary, and why a lot of people are panicking right now, and as I said, don't panic, but it is that drafting of what constitutes a video as appealing to kids, which is so absurdly broad that even if you try to make your videos abide by the law, you can almost never be certain you won't get caught out. And this is particularly the case when you're making it on what is considered by most a children's card game. It is the worst type of law, as it is almost impossible to reasonably comply with it. For Yugitubers, one of the key indicators of child-friendly content that we've been told to consider by YouTube include, for example, an indicator that it is child-friendly if the video includes characters, celebrities, or toys that appeal to children, including animated characters or cartoon figures. So they actually define like subject matter that is appealing to children as things like games, video and computer games, so your Yugioh Pro, your Dual Links, that kind of thing. Children's TV shows or stars, cartoon characters, children's arts and crafts, products primarily purchased or consumed by kids like snack food or cereal. So all those people who did videos on the Blue Eyes White Dragon cereal that you could get, better watch out. Yugioh is a card game technically for 6+. Unless you're over 13, you're probably not going to be able to understand all the complexities of normal, special, link, exes, synchro, pendulum summoning that now exist in the game. Also, language on the website might be a factor as well. For example, if you're using words like fun or cool or games, oh my god, it's just ridiculous. Like, we are literally dealing with the fun police here. And also, whether the website uses visual content appealing to children, such as bold or fast-moving graphics or bright and vibrant colors, which could basically be any video creator on YouTube with his salt who's putting any effort into their thumbnails at all or into their content. Everyone likes vibrant colors. Everyone likes graphics. These are things that we're instilled as content creators to put in our videos, and now we're being told that this might reduce our possibilities of being seen and being able to basically get our content out there on YouTube. It's ridiculous. And I was completely shocked to hear about some of these, like fun being a word that was only for kids. I've put a link in the description to the source for that because I want the source too, because you can't make this shit up, honestly. Now, it does say in the FTC guidelines that a combination of factors is necessary. Just having the word fun in your video, like I've just said now, won't automatically have your video being flagged as kid-friendly. But it's nigh impossible to know where the line will be drawn. That's the real issue. Even if the YouTube guidelines look less like they were written by a civil servant longing for the sweet embrace of death because fun is no longer a word that can apply to their adult life, it doesn't mean that we can't be sure that those definitions won't play a role in what happens after a video is flagged. What I will say though is that I don't believe this will be a mass extinction level event on the platform if we do not panic. YouTube would not be going along with this quietly and even volunteering to create automated systems to check whether content creators are listing their content as correctly kid-friendly or not kid-friendly if they thought it would be financial suicide for them to do so. Furthermore, lawsuits cost a lot of money, and international lawsuits, I highly suspect, cost even more. I do not recognize the United States sovereignty over me, and I do not recognize its laws, frankly. A New Zealand law would have to apply to me that covers the same ground as Coppa, and it would have to be decided in a New Zealand court if I had committed an offence. For the FTC to organise that would be an expensive business, and to do that for millions of content creators across the globe is simply not practical. Yes, serious offenders will be made examples of, but I highly doubt that more than a small percentage of creators on YouTube will receive actual fines, and an extremely small percentage of those would receive the 40k plus fines, which is the maximum penalty that we're looking at there. And as a general rule of thumb, maximum penalties in lawmaking are reserved for the most serious offenders. They are not what's applied across the board. Usually they will be lower than that. What is more concerning for me is that a lot more channels are going to be false flagged as kid-friendly content, and that they will lose their reach or lose their abilities to monetize. For larger Yu-Gi-Oh channels, losing ad revenue is a big deal. But what concerns me most is what it will mean for the future of Yugitubing. There is an upcoming generation of content creators, myself included, who either make very little money at all or none at all, that are getting started, are getting off the ground and just trying to expand their communities. Now, I've recently started my Discord with Team Casual, and it's been an amazing fun experience. But it's really just the beginning for what's going on here, and for a lot of others, for the vast majority of content creators, that's the position that they're in too. They're just trying to get off the ground. Now, the old guard of Yugitubing, channels that have already kind of made it, they have been making a living full-time off of Yu-Gi-Oh! And they knew full well how unreliable and unsubstantial YouTube's ad revenue can be at times, well before Coppa even appeared on the scene. Most of them have things like Patreons or Ko-Fi accounts, which can bring in a good chunk of revenue, and I'm sure that many larger channels will be asking them to support them in this way if they do feel forced to label their content as made for kids. I think they will look to their communities for help, and those communities will respond because they're large and robust and they're able to help. As for those of us who are upcoming Yugitubers who are still trying to make a name, and as I said, in reality that's the vast majority of Yugitubers, we won't be so lucky. We won't be so lucky to have so many dedicated followers, and for so many of our subscribers to have that trust in us that they would be willing to donate and provide us with money to keep us afloat. Many smaller accounts do have Patreon links, but most of those I've noticed do have no patrons. I personally choose not to have a Patreon because I understand that as a content creator, I'm not battle tested yet. I'm not tested by time, and it's a hard sell, and I'm not going to ask you of that. For smaller Yugitubers who aren't yet big enough to do this full time, what is much more important than donations is that there are still eyes being put on our content, that people are still going to be subscribing, that we're still going to be growing as channels. What makes it rewarding is knowing we are reaching others and making a difference, whether through our stories, our ideas, or our spicy texts. What Coppa threatens is to cut us off from reaching an audience on YouTube if we are perceived as too family friendly for covering Yu-Gi-Oh! The harder it becomes to begin Yugitubing, the less of a future the field will have, and there will be less up and coming talent rising to the top in the end. Everyone has to start somewhere, and Coppa threatens to pull up the ladder and leave a lot of us behind. For my part, I always knew deep down that this channel would have to come to an end one day. But if that was true, then Team Casual would be going out on its own terms, not because of the demands of a foreign power and its boomer bureaucracy. If the FTC wants to come after me, they'll have a fucking duel on their hands, I tell you what. Coppa means that the game has changed for success on YouTube. The old strategies for becoming a successful YouTuber may no longer work, and as the game has matured, perhaps our content will have to as well. We should be daring right now to carve out new paths rather than being scared off the platform because of what's happening. As much as some may call doom and gloom, don't go heading off to Pornhub just yet because you're looking for a place to keep your content safe from being marked for kids. Okay, I think that we as a community will survive the changes to Coppa, and perhaps it may even encourage positive changes of how we make our content. If family-friendly content isn't the way to go, perhaps this will lead to new types of Yugitubing, which will explore the depths of Yugioh as a medium. Or perhaps we'll all end up making hentai. Either way, the game may have changed, but remember, it's not game over. Well, that's me for now. Rant over. Okay. Thank you, as always, for listening. I hope this has been informative. I hope this will keep the conversation going. And I hope we will come through this okay. Ngā mihi for now, and good night.